Okay, welcome everyone to the instructor overview for the Global Health Simulation, the Ebola simulation for October 2020. So I'm going to go through a couple quick things here as just general overview for the simulation on Teams. And then I've broken down some videos into specific components so you don't have to listen to an hour video. This is just basically an overview. So you should all be added to the Global Pathosis simulation of October 2020, and that's what it looks like. You can see our map, and actually it says October 2020 on it, so that's how you know you're on the correct one. And when you click here, you'll actually get to the simulation. So many of you will not have all of these channels. So the channels that have little padlocks next to them mean they're private channels, and you only see those if you've been added to the channel. So for the most part, you guys won't see all these different channels. You'll just see the ones that you're added to. So depending on what your role is, you will see that number of channels. Everyone will have access to the channels that are not padlocked. So general and banker communication, you'll have access to. So that's basically the outline of how everything's set up. Obviously, we've all used Teams before, so you can do lots of interesting things like put announcements in there. You can have meetings, you have multiple meetings going on at once. I'm just going to point out a couple things. I'm going to use our sandbox for this test run just so that I don't mess up the actual initial true Teams channel, but the sandbox set up the exact same way. You can see all these different channels here. So as I mentioned initially, each of the traditional organizations we have has their own channel, and the students are going to be assigned to those. So if they are the CDC, they will actually have their own channel. They can communicate in here. You can see they can post things back and forth. They can collaborate. They can also start their own meeting. So the 8 of the students who are meeting together can start their own meeting within the CDC. I've posted all the files here as well. So the normal files that they would get in their folder are here. So if they want their CDC bio, for example, they can see the CDC bio. If they are wondering about what the projects cost, I have the project cost sheet here. So that has how much each project costs. So they have all of that information here. I will be sending a video out to the students as well, obviously letting them kind of know about how to access this information. But all the same stuff is here. They actually have information about how much their specific resources are. And so their resources there are available to them, and so they kind of know how many resources they have here. So all the stuff that's normally in their folders are in each of these, and obviously only the students have access to that channel, have access to their kind of specific information. You can see here we have a general channel. So the general channel is where we're going to be posting the actual map, and I'm just going to be screencasting the map here. So here you can see that there's already a meeting in session. So basically when we start, we're going to actually be screencasting this map so that everyone can see. Okay, so the general channel will be meeting. The way you know that a meeting is going on in Teams is if there's this little camera icon here, you can click on that, or you can go to the actual chat session and then join here. So I'm going to join this meeting, and I'm going to turn off my camera and my microphone so that I don't mess anything up here. As you can see, they'll actually be able to see the map being projected in real time. So this is essentially what will be available to them, is they'll be actually able to see the map just like they could on the large screen. And if a project gets built, they can actually see that project being dragged onto the map there. So pretty similar to what we did, just a screen share of that. Now the nice thing about this is they can look at this in large screen, but if they go back to their Teams, you can see that this map actually stays in the top left corner as long as they're in that meeting. Now if they leave this meeting or they put it on pause, that will pause, at least for them. Obviously it'll keep running for us. So this will constantly keep running in the background. If they decide to go into a meeting in a different room, they can actually put this meeting on pause and jump into another meeting. So for example, let's say I am the MSF and I'm going to do a meeting here. I can just click meet, and now I'm in 2 meetings at once. So I'm meeting with someone else in this channel. The general channel is on hold, so I can't see if I go back here. I can't see the board anymore because now I'm in this meeting with my team. But if I want to go back to the general channel, all I have to do is click here. So that's the resume. And I'm going to resume there. And there's my map, comes back up again. So they can jump back and forth between meetings. They can see what's going on with the map pretty easily. They can join other meetings. They can do chats. So this is basically the outline of how they're going to collaborate. Is they'll be jumping back and forth. There'll be some channels that are restricted just to the negotiators, just the way we restricted certain students to go out of the room. Certain students will only have access to the announcements and communication portion of this. I'm going to walk through in other videos the specific ways that projects are going to be built. Just like we did in previous years, essentially students have to collaborate. They turn in project cards. And as long as they have enough resources for that, they would be allowed to build those projects. We have a way of keeping track of how many resources each one has by a real-time spreadsheet where essentially we'll subtract resources as they use them. So that's the overview of the team's outlook in general, kind of how things are going to work. Hopefully everyone has some familiarity with teams. Really, for the most part, you shouldn't have to do too much more than communicate between each other and once in a while communicate to the students. Really, primarily, I don't envision that as instructors we're going to spend too much time actually having to do any video or audio communication. Mostly we're going to be texting or chatting back and forth. One thing I'll just say about chats in general is if you start a new conversation, I highly encourage you, rather than just tapping in here, to use this A with the little paintbrush on it. That brings up a more robust window where you can actually do other things. For example, if you want to attach a file, or if you want to say important, or if you want to tag someone. So this is the @mention. So if I say @Mastromonaco, this will give Jeff a notification that he's being tagged and actually give him a little bit of alert. So we're going to be using that function to kind of make sure that each person is tagged and aware of what's going on. And in subsequent videos, I'll talk about exactly how to use that. But also, this is where we're going to use a subject line. So if we say, for example, ETU, and I'm going to tag Doctor. Okay, so I can only tag people that are in this channel. So let's see who's in this channel with me. So not very many people in that channel. So that's not a good example. So I'm going to end this meeting here. So again, if you want to end a meeting, you just hang up. So I'm going to end that meeting there. You can see my map still running in the background. I'm going to go back to the general channel. Same idea. Each of these is a separate conversation. So you can see a separate conversation. And then within a conversation, you can have replies. And so here's this conversation, here's the subject line, and then you can see people can reply to that conversation. If you want to start a new conversation, you click New Conversation. Again, using that A paintbrush, now I can add a subject line. So I can say, completed project, for example, or something like that. I can then tag people. I'm going to tag Allison, and then I can write my message in here. Please be aware so again, this is a way to communicate, and when that gets posted, it will come across as, and then if someone wants to reply to this specific thing, now tagging someone doesn't personalize it. So everyone who has access to this channel can see this. So if I tag Allison, it's not that the message just goes to her, but she specifically gets an alert that a message has tagged her. So everyone can see this announcement. To send a private message, you have to go to your chat function, just like you do for other things in Teams, and just send a private chat message. This just tags Allison, lets her know that she has a message that she needs to look at. And then she can reply, or anyone else can reply to this specific thing. Again, this creates a new conversation. That's really helpful because we want to break up communication by project whenever possible. The other component I'll just mention here is that we have an banking admin channel. So this is kind of our back end. This is where we're going to really communicate about how the project cards are moving. And I have a whole video about how that's going to happen. And this is also a place where any other admin questions can come up. So if you are having an issue, you want to message all the facilitators, you want to message me, but you don't want to do it within any of these public channels, this is kind of the back end communication where we can do that as well. So that's a basic overview. Again, one of the things I'll just point out is that when you join, you should make sure that you have the general channel and you are in that meeting, even if you're never going to actually do anything in the general channel. That's to keep us all on the same page. So as you can see here, this is how we're making sure we're all synced. So this is the countdown timer. I'm going to send a flow sheet of how things move, but also kind of a diagram of how much time there is for each session so that you can have that pulled up. But if you'll notice here, it's a little small, but here it says plan A and 7 minutes and now 32 seconds counting down. So if you, for example, if you're in the announcements and communication section, for example, and you're texting someone back and forth, you see that I can have an entire texting conversation, but still keep an eye on where this is. So for the person who's doing the announcements and communication, they actually have to time announcements specifically to a certain point in the map. They just have this up in the left-hand corner and they can see what's going on. So that's how we're going to sync. If you're one of the bankers and you're accepting project cards and you're trying to decide, well, when do I cut off and stop? Again, the same idea is you can use this general top left window to keep track of where things are in the simulation. So that's a quick outline of just basic overview, how the simulation is going to work, how things are put together, and we'll have some further videos with more details to follow. Thanks so much, everyone.